Do cheaters exist because of sweats? And if they do, what can the community do to stop hackers? Cheaters, or otherwise known as hackers, are hated unanimously by almost the entire community of any game. But people rarely know why somebody cheats, mostly because they can't see themselves hacking. Now, I as a kid used to often cross the rules to give myself an advantage, like looking at somebody's cards while playing Uno because they were unaware of how bad they were hiding them, but for some reason that never converged into any competitive game. When I played sports, I never even thought of harming my rival or trying to cheat to get an advantage. Same thing applied to Minecraft. I haven't ever injected a hack client, although I've tried to download one so I could use X-Ray back when I didn't know you could just have a texture pack for that. But when I asked you guys, almost 40% said you have hacked at some point, although many of you stated that you have just hacked to annoy friends. Now personally, I hate the idea of trolling, but I guess I can see the enjoyment of somebody doing that. But I wanted to know how many people are actual full-time cheaters and didn't just hack once to bully somebody on their world. So I made another poll asking how many people currently closet cheat or have closet cheated before without anybody knowing. And surprisingly enough, a lot of people said they did. Now this all, at the end of the day, is to ask the question, why do cheaters exist? What motivates people to cheat? And do cheaters exist because of good players? Now I think most people know why some hackers cheat. There's enough hacker interviews on the internet to assume that hackers just have fun while hacking. Personally, I don't think you can have fun while hacking and not have a guilty conscience, but I guess some people just don't care. What interests me more though is the thought of hackers cheating because there's too many competent players. Now I've always thought that hackers are just twisted individuals that enjoy inflicting pain onto other players. But do they really start off like that? Or do people hack out of frustration of the skill ceiling? If they do, how can we prevent that happening as a community? Now, I haven't met anybody that has told me that they've hacked or closet cheated to specifically impress somebody or to become more well known, but it's definitely something that has been a proven reason of why people hack in other games. But it's not the only reason. Some people hack because they don't like the server or have had a bad experience with somebody who plays on it and wants some sort of revenge. Some hack because they think everybody else does. I've met people in a game that have toggled just because they think I'm hacking. Now, how can I blame the community of a server for hackers? Well, obviously not all hackers exist because of sweats, but I can definitely imagine a situation like this. A player gets on Nethergames, queues Bed Wars, and in the first 15 seconds, he loses his bed and gets eliminated. If the person is not very competitive, they'll disconnect right away and go play Hive or some other server that's more casual. Why bother playing on a server where you get killed right away? It's not fun. But if they're impressed by the speed or they want to be at that level of skill, they might start paying more attention and seeing if they can play like that, or at least counter an early rush. If they get unlucky and queue more sweats, they might get increasingly frustrated at how hard it is to win. The fact that 90% of the server has a KDR under 5 proves how hard it is to win if you're a beginner. If our player gets frustrated enough, then he might either try to look up some tutorials, which he won't find any of because everybody wants to keep their strats themselves, or they might go play a less competitive server. But there's also a chance they just start mildly cheating. Maybe starting off with an auto clicker, then moving on to reach, and if they still can't win, maybe blatantly b-hop fly. I think the top 10% of players don't really understand how much of a struggle and how much of an annoyance it is for worse players to win, especially if somebody wants to win. There are those that just enjoy playing, but you play to win. Seeing the victory text feels so good, especially if you've just played a sweaty game. If something is too hard, usually people won't bother, but when something is barely easy enough to achieve, then people will try to achieve it, no matter how many times they fail. The problem with that never give up attitude is that you will be frustrated the more you fail, which is why I think Nethergames has such a good environment for somebody to hack. Something else that's also attributed to a competitive environment is the fact that Nethergames' main game modes are all PvP based. Nethergames has some casual game modes like Murder Mystery or Soccer, but nobody really plays them, not because they're bad, but because nobody else does. I guarantee you that if only 200 people watching this video started maining Soccer, it would become a popular game mode overnight. just because there's people in the game to queue. Most of the casual games don't even get enough players to start a game, so they never get a chance to enjoy it. Soccer, for anybody interested, is literally just soccer. You have a floating ball which you can just click on and it shoots just like a normal ball. The physics are really weird sometimes, but you basically try to shoot the ball into the opposing team's goal, and it's super fun. It's a great party game, and I think Nethergames has got a real gem in that game mode. It just, nobody plays it. Now, I've always said that I like a competitive server, but that doesn't mean that every single game mode has to be sweaty. Hive has managed to build a very competitive community and still has some casual game modes. It proves that a server can be both sweaty and casual. When you have no casual game modes and somebody just wants to play, then they will probably queue a game mode that is just too hard. It also doesn't help that the only reason Nethergames is known is because of Bed Wars and Sky Wars. Obviously, you have to clarify that whether somebody hacks is really up to character. If you get agitated easily over something like a skill gap, then you might start hacking. I doubt somebody that just wants to have a good time will be heartless enough to hack, but it is a possibility, which is why Nethergames needs a good backbone for the players that don't want to PvP. Skyblock is a great step in the right direction. It's a popular non-competitive game mode. Well, it's competitive in its own way, but it doesn't involve too much PvP. Murder Mystery also still gets enough players for lobbies to start, but besides that, there really isn't anything else, and the problem is that there shouldn't be anything else. Let me explain. Nethergames has spent a lot of time, arguably too much time, trying to add new popular game modes that are semi-competitive, but they usually die off in the first couple days. A good example is Capture the Flag. It's now missing in the lobby, but at one point it was enjoying 200 players on it. The reason why it was so popular was because it had a bug where kills counted towards your KR, but deaths didn't. But after I fixed it, every competitive player stopped playing. And because 70% of the player base was gone, queues took longer, which then made even less players queue, which then killed the game mode. If Nethergames focuses on anything but Skywars, Bedwars, or Skyblock, it won't really make more people play. If you have a player base of 1,000 players that enjoy the server, and let's say they play Bedwars, Skywars, and Skyblock, and you add a new game mode to that list, you're not getting new players from different servers, you're just taking existing players from existing game modes and you're putting them into other game modes, which is a bad thing because you're emptying the queues on your other game modes to this new game, which is why I don't like the way QCraft right now, for example, is handling their server. They're adding all of these new games, which some of which admittedly are doing a really good job at getting people from other servers to play on it, but they're also in a different situation where they have the possibility of getting people from other servers to play on CubeCraft since they're a featured server. But before that, when they weren't as popular and Hive was more popular, it was a very dangerous move to create a lot of new game modes because it split their existing player base into multiple different smaller communities for those specific game modes, which made their main game modes less main, if that makes sense. So if Nethergames keeps adding new game modes, they're not growing. They might get a couple new players, but they're just gonna split up their existing game modes. And that's one of the reasons why Bed Wars Trios was removed, because it was pulling too many players from solos, doubles, and squads. It was 100 players that, after it got removed, started to play their squads, doubles, and solos game modes. And I have to say, it was a smart decision. As much as I hated it, it made those main game modes have more players, queues fill up faster, it's just more enjoyable for the people that already played those game modes. Obviously, the 100 people that couldn't play trios anymore had to get over it, but long term, it helped the server because queues are faster. Somebody could leave the server because the queues aren't fast enough. I think if the time spent creating or updating game modes was redirected to adding updates and fixing bugs, then the server would have been better off objectively. So you see, it's hard for Nethergames to create game modes that cater to non-competitive players because there isn't enough non-competitive players that would enjoy something new. Maybe because they never got a chance to try it, but most likely because it's just cooler to play something popular. It's just fascinating how legit players and a lot of competitiveness are the reason why hackers exist. It sounds so contradictory, yet it also makes sense. Nobody hacks because they genuinely enjoy it, at least I hope so, Most hackers probably got mad that their hard work in a video game didn't get validated by more wins, or maybe they're mad about the unfair skill gap between PC and mobile players. Either way, I think it's fair to ask what we as a community or the server can do to prevent hackers. First of all, less toxicity. I think this is an obvious one, but people still don't seem to get that being toxic even to hackers doesn't make them stop hacking. If you're being toxic to somebody new for being bad, then there's a bigger chance they might start closet cheating to gain your respect. As an established player, people might look up to you, so you have to try to encourage them, not demotivate them. When you get killed by a random, say something nice like, "Dang, good fight," even if you know it was very luck-based or gear-based. It may make that player stay. I know when I started off playing Bedwars, people only made fun of me, believe it or not. I constantly heard about established players talking crap about me, and it wasn't exactly encouraging. But I argue for me it was a good thing because it motivated me to improve and just get better, and it eventually led to me getting on leaderboards. But some people shouldn't deserve to get made fun of like that. At the end of the day, we're all here to have fun, to make more tutorials. There's a lack of tutorials from good players, and most of the time it's because they don't want to share their winning strategies. If that's the case, then don't worry. The reason why there is such a high skill ceiling in Hypixel, for example, is because of all the tutorials. It's why good players are so good. They've taught people how to PvP, how to play Bedwars, and how to win any minigame, which makes everybody more equally skilled. But it also improves the player who gave the tutorial, because he now has to figure out how to beat everybody that knows all his strategies. Praise staff more. I can't understate this enough. If staff are treated well, then we might get even less hackers than there are now, because they're more active and they'll start banning more hackers because they know that the community will really thank them. I know it's not solving the hacker problem from within, but it's still a solution nonetheless. Also, quick side note, if any closet cheaters watching this video, I hope it motivated you to stop cheating. Hacking isn't fun for anybody except the hacker. It's extremely egotistical and sucks the joy out of playing. I want this video to reach as many people as possible, so if you could like, subscribe, and maybe comment something, that would be appreciated. With that being said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.